Shalom, shalom, everybody. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is the 24th of August, 2020, and this is our Monday night class. And so what we're going to do is start out with a moment of silence to recognize and appreciate what the Lord of hosts is doing on the earth and how he's bringing about our orchestrating our deliverance from the lands of our oppressors. And then we have a prayer. O Lord, we come before thee, bow down and honoring thee for thy great wisdom and strength. O Lord, through your guidance, we have found you. We searched you out through your holy word given unto us by your prophets. Lord, we see your outstretched hands in the affairs of our oppressors, and we stand in awe of you. Turn not thy face from your inheritance, but deliver us, O Lord. We thank you for your knowledge that we have received and that you may guide us through the contents of this message, and that it is received in spirit and in truth of thy great word. O Lord, we trust and abide with you. O Lord, we solely depend upon you, for the latter days are here. Keep and protect us, for we know that our Redeemer lives. The Lord of hosts is his name. Peace be unto you. Okay. Anybody got anything on anything they want to bring up on current events? Okay, well, I'm down here in Louisiana, and just wanted to let everybody know 2 hurricanes headed our way. So right now, the governor got 72-hour alert going. So yeah. Okay. Another thing I want to do. I mean, I'm trying to inject this little the characteristic in this class was in this connecting the dots. And what I'm gonna do is I did the video, or I did the class on how the Greeks came. When the Greeks came, so many people don't realize how much they Hellenized the world when they came. Not only did they Hellenize it, they when you understand the geographical location and the intensity and all of that, the sun over there in the Middle East and in Africa, it's people of color over there, and people when you understand what melanin is, anybody that's lacking melanin, they're gonna catch hell over there. So that's why you see that Arabs that's over there today, they all wrapped up and tied up because they're trying to protect their skin from the sun. And so when those Arabs came, the Greeks came, they intermingled with all those cultures. Even the Egyptian is lighter skinned than what they were. The original Africans and Egyptians, all them were darker skinned people, real dark. And so now when you see, they show you images and pictures and people of the Egyptian, he's almost Caucasian looking. And the Arab, he's Caucasian looking, but that's because of what happened with the Greeks, and especially the Greeks, but the Greeks and the Romans, because they both Gentiles, and they came over there and they lighted up that region to what we're looking at now. But it's an illusion, like a lot of other things that I'm gonna deal with today. So, like I was saying before, when the Greeks, when you understand who the Israelite is, and Adam's descendants, then you had Abraham, and you had Isaac. They had they was dealing with the Most High. They was dealing with heaven and these angels, and so they wasn't misinformed about the goings on, or how everything was, and how to think right and how to be, you know, be righteous and all that. They understood all that because they was dealing with heaven and with the Most High's order and His angels, and the Greeks and these other people was uh, separate from the Most High's kingdom. It was cast out. It was, you know, they wasn't dealing with Him, so they came up with all kinds of things. You know, looking at stuff and not understanding the order of it and the construct of it. They came up with all these misconstrued ideals and all this. And philosophy is one of them. Philosophy is a total another mindset than what the Hebrew Israelite is. So when those Greeks came, because they didn't understand the order, they glorified the woman, and the Egyptian did too. He was outside of the understanding of the you know, the Old Testament and of our forefathers and all that. They didn't understand how things go. So, like I said, they saw that the woman gave birth to the kid, to the male. So they thought that you know, she had to be some kind of god, a god or something, a goddess. So the Egyptians, they glorified her. So with that understanding, I'm going to play a video to show you how I was showing you in a couple of books, the Tobit and in the book of Bartholomew, how they injecting Greek thought. And so we so much stuff that we doing now in so many ways that we thinking now, it was injected in the situation, and we thinking and not understanding how that concept came about and and why we dealing with it. You know, and that's one of the things that the Greeks and Esau have done to us as a people. So I want to show you an example of that, as far as we know that the Most High created these 7 angels, and they was males. So I'm going to show you this right quick. We play this. This Athena, and it's telling you the origins of Athena.
After affirming its power, Zeus falls in love with Titaness Metis, the goddess of prudence and wisdom. She tried to circumvent the advances of Zeus using all the means she could. Given that she had the power of metamorphosis, the goddess was able to transform herself into several animals to lose the great god. But Metis would not be capable of escaping Zeus forever. The god grabs her and turns her into his wife. She quickly gets pregnant and certainly would give birth to a wonderful divinity. However, the Oracle of Gaia lets Zeus know that the goddess will give birth to 2 children. The first will be a girl that will match her father in strength and sapience. The second will be a boy that will be even stronger than his father and will take the power from him. Zeus dreads the possibility of facing the same fate of his father Titan Cronus, or of his grandfather the god Uranus, who were both dethroned by their sons, and, inspired by his father, Zeus asks to have Metis transformed into a drop of water, and so he swallows his pregnant wife, never giving her the chance to give birth. After swallowing his wife, Zeus starts to embody the gifts of goddess Metis. He is now a much more wise, fair, and less impulsive god. Time moves on, and the powerful god starts to feel unbearable headaches. His head starts to grow in a frightening way. Zeus orders someone to open his head and remove the cause of such pain. Hephaestus, the god of
Make sure you listen to this.
the forges, uses an axe to open a fissure in the head of Zeus. From the god's hole in the head emerges Athena, with her armor and weapons, already a full-grown adult. Zeus is proud to give birth to such a remarkable creature who, because she had the intelligence of her mother, will become the goddess of wisdom. She will also be regarded as the goddess of defensive wars, and, therefore, the clashes against Ares, the god of war, would be inevitable. Metis stays in Zeus's stomach, and so the prophecy of the couple's second son would never be fulfilled. Athena will present herself as a valiant, pure, fair, and sapient goddess, and so she will be regarded as Zeus's favorite daughter, and many will deem her as the rightful heiress to Zeus.
Okay, so we see that first off, any comment for us, for break it down? Anybody got a comment on what they heard? Okay.
Shalom, shalom. No comments. Thank you.
Shalom. Okay. Yeah. So what you see right there was uh these they in heaven. They on Mount Olympus. So where these gods dwell at is in Mount Olympus, which is up in heaven, which is supposedly up in the sky. So we already see that they elves. Well, what they calling gods, we know they angels, elves. And so, but the first thing you see out the gate, they having sex. They having sex all over the place. So we see right there, you already in left field because we already know the angels ain't forbidden to having sex because they eternal beings. So this goes back to the, like I said, when you understand, when you start looking at how the origins of some of these thoughts and these ideals that's been imposed, and like I said, most of us are only 50 years old. So you're not going back and looking and trying to figure out where all these thoughts and these concepts come from. We on a certain, we only been here on a water time drop on the planet. And so anyway, so you see right here, these Greeks, the ones, we know it wasn't no woman involved in nothing up in heaven, and even in the first 10 men. And we know it's an auditory thing for these Greeks. All of a sudden, Zeus, a woman come out of Zeus' head. He got to get another god to open his head up, and the woman come out his head. And then this woman is wisdom. And so, like I said before, we know the Greeks came with Antioch Epiphanes, and they ran the Israelites out, and our records was laid open to them. That's what they was doing all in Alexandria, Egypt. Alexandria, the one built the library. And they had our books in there, and they were in there looking at them, and they were synchronizing them with Greek thought and with their thought. And so what they did was they couldn't find them, that it wasn't no female up in heaven. And there wasn't no female angels, but they injected them. And then we go to the New Testament, we see the same thing. You got, like I said, the 12 disciples, they all up in the upper room. They don't know what the hell going on, but Jesus know where Mary know where he at. And she goes and he give her all the secret knowledge. But the 12 men that was with him 3 years, they don't know what's going on. They lost. And we see today how they injected all this unrealistic powers on women in the movies. How they showing women beating the hell out of men. The man 300-400 pounds with muscles everywhere, and she weighed about 90 pounds, and she beating the hell out of them. Beat them all over, beat them all through the wall, and beat them all out in the streets and all over the place. And that's unrealistic. So anyway, so we see how this came about. This how wisdom came in. When they went out, they went right to Ecclesiastics and Psalms and all that, where our forefathers is putting out wisdom, and they injected this in there. They injected that in there. That's Hellenistic. So I just want to shed light on that, and so like I was saying before, I'm connecting a dot, but it's not really actually part of the class. It's gonna come up again on Wednesday, because I'm gonna deal with that what I mentioned the other day about it's a gap in the understanding of Christianity. When you understand Christianity is just like what Christianity is like a little bitty baby. It started when it started little, and it grew up, and they built on it, and the origins of the Christianity started with the Buddhism. When Alexandria was died and his conquest stopped, they was in India, and all these people were dealing with Buddhism, and that was over 200 to 300 year period. They was dealing with Buddhism, and some of the ideas that I gave you, like the philosophy part of it, came from the Greeks. But you got Stoicism, which is Stoicism. You can Google that, and I was talking about cynicism, which is a cynic is Cynic, and then you put an ISM on the end of it. That's what was going on. They was dealing with what Sandaka, who is the Buddha, what he had done in his life, how he had would starve itself, and he's trying to search out the they already don't have no contact with the angels and with the Most High, so they trying to understand. Sindaka was trying to understand the meaning of life, and so he would go around, don't eat, 90 days, he numbered skin and bone, and he just sleeping in the alleys and all this stuff, and with no clothes on, and walk out in the public, and quoting all this, different stuff. That was righteous to them, and so that's the origins, the start of Christianity. Then it comes on up to, like I said, that's when Jesus disappeared, which is who is Caesarian. This was what was going on, right? What I'm talking about now, cynics and stoicism and all this stuff. And so when Cleopatra's son, when Alexander came, when Octavian came and killed Mark Antony and Cleopatra, she sent her son away to a monastery over in India, which is where this was going on at. So when he came back, like I said, these monks got this boy that showed up that's the son of God. They know he's the son from Cleopatra, and Cleopatra had a following all over that whole region. So he's perceived as a god. So this god then came to this temple, and they teaching him how to be, they teaching him the ways of Buddhism, and they already had a so-called oracle out that this boy was gonna come, and he's gonna learn the ways of Buddhism. He's gonna be a foreigner, and then he's gonna come and he's gonna change the world. And that's what I was telling you about Maitreya. Look that word up, Maitreya. So that's who came back to Jerusalem, Maitreya. When you understand what's going on, and so when he came back, these Essenes, which it was way more Essenes than the Essenes had way more control over Jerusalem and that region than they having you to think. Those Essenes was all over the place because it's Essenes today. That cult and all that's still going on. So they was all over the place. So when they heard about this Caesarian that came back, and he was already considered a god when he was born. And so then here they go saying Maitreya, which is, like I say, that's not even in our train of thought today. We don't know nothing about Buddhism and all this stuff, all this lost period in time. Nobody knows nothing about it. So they can't even converse about it because they don't know nothing about it. All they know is what was given to them and the lie that's been perpetrated on them. But he's coming back, and the whole world in that whole region been Hellenized with Greek culture and Buddhism. They haven't even and then they got hold to the Hebrew our Hebrew scriptures. So it wasn't even nothing had to do with no Christianity yet. The Christianity part comes from Christ, and the Christ part comes from when I was telling you. We may not really talked about it, but you had Cleopatra, and you had the Trinity, which is pagan, was in Egypt was Isis, Horus, and Aset. When the Greeks came, I told you how they Hellenized everything. That's when you get the Black Madonna. They went from Isis, Horus, and Osar to what you had the Christ. It was the Christ, the Osiris and Horus. That's what the Black Madonna. That's what the Pope going. The Pope going and bowing down to. So that's what Christianity comes from when they changed Horus to the Christ, which is tied to this concept is tied to Buddhism. And then that's how you get to Christ. Then those people were what they called can't think of that name of those people. But anyway, let me get that name. I can't think of the name of them. Anyway, those people were for the longest, they was dealing with this cross between the Egyptian culture and the Egyptian religion, the mystery system, synchronized with Greek culture, and then so that's Christianity came out of that. And so when they was attacking Christianity at first, because Christianity was tied to Caesarion, who Augustus hated. That's why they was attacking that cult that came out of Jesus, Caesarion. They was attacking it at first because Caesarion hated it. But then when the Roman Empire had failed, Rome got sacked by those giants. That's when they brought that's when Constantine needed that religion. He had to come over. He went into that religion to save the Roman Empire, and that's when he blowed it. Then he turned around, he blowed it up. But he had to take it from those the people that had created it. And those are the people that was being killed in the arenas. They had to take it because they were saying, "Wait a minute, this is our religion," but Constantine stole it from them. And before this class over, I'm gonna think of the name of those people because you done heard it before, but it just haven't, the dots haven't been connected yet. So anyway, so I just wanted to inject that in there before I got started. And like I said before, it's impossible for me to talk about this type of stuff, like I was saying before I laying a foundation, because you'd be totally lost if I would start bringing up stuff like this at the very beginning. But like I said, now it's the time, so we're gonna dive into this. Like I said, so you might want to tie your shoes up because I'm gonna go all the way in. We're going into the rabbit hole. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you the title of this video, and then I'm gonna play a little bit of it, and it was sent out this morning, and what I was expecting was to watch half of it, and so we're gonna just go do a half of the video today, and then according to what everybody decide on, whether you want to do the other half tomorrow, and then just do a half meal or a short class or whatever, and then I'll do it Wednesday, however you want to do it. But anyway, so the name of the video, in case nobody got it, is the Illuminati plans, the Illuminati plans secret video, 1967 leaked. And so I'm gonna start playing it, and then we're gonna break it down as it goes. So in the meantime, while I'm doing this, while I'm getting the video, if anybody has any comments or questions on something I said, just I said you can ask me a question if I said something that you didn't understand.
Fathers would have done to Benedict Arnold. Actually.
So like I said, we dealing with the Illuminati. I don't know how much people on the line know about the Illuminati, but after we finish this video, we're gonna know exactly who they are, and then we're gonna tie them into the what the Most High said in the Old Testament, and what they role playing, the role they're gonna play in the future in these latter days.
Benedict Arnold was a petty traitor compared to our present traitors in Washington. Now let's go back to the events.
Let's start over.
A UN one world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon.
Yeah, so like he said, these people got absolute control. And what I'm gonna show you is they've been had it, but they got absolute control over everything. So what you have to understand is is the things that you didn't concocted in your head. Did they concoct it for you, or is it something that you got on? Is some understanding or wisdom or not you got on your own, or are you being hoodwinked by them? Okay.
And the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news, to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from their masters of the Great Conspiracy. And the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait, to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations one world government. First of all, bear in mind that the so-called UN police action in Korea, fought by the United States, in which 150,000 of our sons were murdered and maimed, was part of the plot, just as the undeclared by Congress war in Vietnam, in which our sons are dying, is part of the plot, just as the plot against Rhodesia and South Africa, in which our sons will be dying, is part of the UN plot. However, the vitally important thing for all Americans, all you mothers of the boys who died in Korea and are now dying in Vietnam, to know is that our so-called leaders in Washington, who we elected to safeguard our nation and our Constitution, are the betrayers, and that behind them are a comparatively small group of men whose sole objective is to enslave the whole world of humanity in their satanic plot of one world government. Now, in order to give you a very clear picture of this satanic plot, I will go back to its beginning, clear back in the middle of the 18th century, and name the men who put that plot into action, and then bring you down to the present, today's status of that plot.
So I want to inject something right there. So he says he want to go back to 1766. I hope you that number ring a bell, because that's the same time America was discovered, 1760. So they say. But anyway, he going back to 1766. But I want you to know that the Brutus and that group of men that killed Julius Caesar, that's how far it go back. They killed Julius Caesar, just like the same people, or descendants of people, same group of people, same nation of people. They came down later, killed Lincoln. They came later and they killed JFK. They killed Martin Luther King. So he's just going right here to this because they don't deal with the Bible. But I'm showing you that they go all the way back to when they killed Julius Caesar. And not only that, they killed Alexandria. They had wind Alexandria up to end up coming to the Middle East. And then when he got to Jerusalem, he didn't want to deal with Jerusalem. He had heard he had heard about those people, and he knew they had a God with them. So he wanted to bypass them. Well, Ptolemy, the same dude that took Egypt and Judea after he died, they got a plot and they paused it. But they tell you in the history books he died from a drunken stupor, but they paused him and killed him. So it's these same people. We're gonna pick it up.
Now, as a matter of further intelligence, a term used by the FBI, let me clarify the meaning of the expression, he is a liberal. The enemy, meaning the one world conspirators, have seized upon that word liberal as a cover-up for their activities. It sounds so innocent and so humanitarian to be liberal. Will make sure that the person who calls himself a liberal or is described as a liberal is not in truth a red. Now then, this satanic plot was launched back in the 1760s when it first came into existence under the name of the Illuminati. This Illuminati was organized by one Adam Weishaupt, born a Jew, who was converted to Catholicism.
So here we go. But we saw in Obadiah that there was Esau. When you see the word Jew, that's what that is. Israelite, we know what Israelite is. I done broke that down on several occasions. But a Jew is the people that stole the land, posing as Israelites. Synagogue of Satan. That's what a Jew is. So it's a Edomite. He's a crossbreed between Esau and Japhet. That's how you get Edom. Edom is when the Gentiles merge with Esau. That's how you get Edom. So right here we see those are Edomites that killed Julius Caesar. They killed Alexandra. They came on down. They killed Lincoln, JFK. So now we're dealing with one right here that founded the Illuminati
and became a Catholic priest, and then, at the behest of the then newly organized House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati.
I'm gonna have to stop this for the later foundation, so then I'm gonna go. So it said the Rothschild. I mean, everybody on this line should know who they are. These are Rothschilds. So I'm gonna go to the scriptures right quick. It's the latest foundation. So it says, Obadiah, right quick. First 2 verses. Let me grab it. Okay, so it says right here in Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1. I mean, it's only one chapter, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus says the Lord God concerning Edom. I just told you who Edom was. They stole land. So that's what a Jew is. So it says, we have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us go up against her in battle. So he went and got Japhet. That's who the heathens are. They lawless people. I told you what they was doing before the flood. They was sleeping with the mama and the daddy and sleeping with the son to the point where it got so bad they ain't know who was who. They ain't know who their cousins from the neighbors. They was doing so much wicked, perverted stuff. And so verse 2 says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art the greatest of spies. So what is he talking about? It ain't that many Edomites. That's who these Rothschilds is. That's who these people is I'm telling you about. Brutus and all them. They pure-blooded Edomites. But the majority of what they done set up is Japhet. The Romans they converted and the Greeks they converted. The Ashkenazi Jew, the Ashkenazi is the son of Japhet. So it's so many of them. And you're gonna begin to understand that that's why every time they hoodwinking, they're getting billions of dollars, trillions of dollars every year going to Israel for the Jews that's over there. But how did they get that money coming over there? They sacrificed some of those converts, those Ashkenazi Jews. They same people was funding the Rothschilds was funding Hitler. To have Hitler to kill a bunch of those German Jews. Them not Edomites, like he's telling you right here. The ones that's behind all of this it's small. They don't intermingle and mess their heritage up. They redheads, like I was telling you. They come from Mount Horeb. I can't think of the name of the mount. Mount Seir. They come from Mount Seir, and so they redheads, and they don't want to get outside. They don't want to take away that DNA part of them. So it's only a few of them, and another name for them is Zionists. And like I said, I hope you was listening to what the guy said about liberal. I don't know how much you know about that, but pray about it or go Google it or whatever. But you hear that a lot all over the place, especially when you start dealing with politics about liberal. See, so Zionist and a liberal, you can throw both of them in the same bag. And what a Zionist is they want to. Let me read it right quick. A Zionist wants right here. Malachi. A Zionist wants right here. I'm gonna read it in Malachi chapter 1. It says, they stole the land. I showed you that in Obadiah, but the Most High said that Daniel chapter 11 and 14, that even though they picked the vision up, they built the temple. Herod built the temple. He gonna run them out like he ran Israel out. So in 70 AD, he had Vespasian in them to run them out. And so, but they say right here in Malachi chapter 1, verse 1, the burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, said the Lord. Yet ye say, when hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, says the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and I laid his mountain and his heritage to waste for the dragons of the wilderness, right? Then look what he say. This is who the Zionist is. The pure blood of Edomite. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return, build a desolate place. Desolate places. Ain't but one desolate place. That's in Daniel 9, 25, 26, 27, and 28. The abomination that make it desolate says, wherefore Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus says the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. He did that in 70 AD. And they shall call them, see, what you're going to say, well, what I'm talking about? The border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. And your eyes shall see, and you shall say, the Lord will be magnified from the borders of Israel. You got a lot of people want to say that happened at Mount Seir. No, he told you right here in verse 5. When he did it, he was magnified from the borders of Israel. So that was in 70 AD. So what they said is they're going to return. Well, that's what a Zionist is. Ever since they was kicked out, they've been working behind the scenes to get back to Jerusalem. That's what the Illuminati is. These Edomites, Jews, pure blooded Edomites. And like I said, it's in 70 AD, Herod's family. Just like David got a house, Herod had a house. Herod's house was given safe passage to Spain. And anybody that know anything about history know all the drama came out of Spain and Portugal. They laid up to the day. So that's Herod's lineage. These 13 families you're hearing about, there's the Wurzburgs and the Rockefellers and all them, that's Herod's lineage. If Jacob ain't ruling, Esau ruling. You have to understand that. So anyway, we're gonna keep going. So like I said, a Zionist is Malachi chapter 1. They told the Most High, like I said, you have to understand that when you can tell when you're dealing with an Israelite and when you ain't, because of what they wrote. You don't see none of the Israelites talking to the Most High like that. He telling him, though you throw us out, we're gonna come back. You don't see none of our forefathers talking like that. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna keep going.
Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation. And every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution, has been promoted by the Illuminati, operating under various names and guises. I say under various names and guises because after the Illuminati was exposed and became too notorious, Weishaupt and his co-conspirators began to operate under various other names. In the United States, immediately after World War I, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. And this CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States. And its hierarchy, the masterminds in control of the CFR, to a very great extent, are the descendants of the original Illuminati conspirators. But to conceal that fact, most of them changed their original family names to American-sounding names. For example, the true name of the Dillons, Clarence and Douglas Dillon, once Secretary of the U.S. Treasury Department, is Lepowski. I'll come back to all this later. There is a similar establishment of the Illuminati in England, operating under the name of the British Institute of International Affairs.
Right. So like I was saying before, I did the episode on who are the people of the transatlantic slave trade. Well, we saw that the Israelites came on a slave ship. They changed their names to hide their identity because they made quadrillions of money off of them through the process of the transatlantic slave trade and the plantations and all that. So we see right here, they were twins. They were born. So we see right here, they changed their names. But they changed their name for another reason. So you won't know who they are. So they changed their name. And then Jacob was brought over here in the bottom of a slave ship. Well, he came over here on top of the slave ship. And so I want to show you something. So we're gonna go back to the blessing to show you how, I ain't blowing hot air out the side of my ear. So it says, and when Jacob received a blessing from and this blessing been passed down all the way from Adam. Adam gave the same blessing to Seth. Then Seth gave it to his son. It was passed on down. Jared gave it to Enoch. On so on and so forth. So now we had it's Isaac. It's time for Isaac to give it to Jacob. So we see right here it says I'm in Genesis 27. It says, okay. Okay, so I'm in 27, Genesis 27. Just the blessing that he gave Isaac. Like I said, this blessing been passed down way from Adam. And he says, 26, and his father Isaac said unto him, come near now and kiss me, my son. And he said, and he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and he blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is the smell of the field which the Lord hath blessed. Therefore, look what he tells him. Therefore, God give thee of the dew of heaven and thy fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren. See that? He little over his brother Esau. He Lord over his brother Esau. That's the yoke that's on Esau's neck. It says, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be everyone that blesseth thee. So when you understand the story, Esau came in and found out Jacob had got that blessing that had been passed down from one generation to the next. So he in disarray. So now he tells his father in 37, his father tell him, and Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord. See that small L. And all his brethren have given to him for servants. I have given them for servants. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing for me, father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling place shall be in the fatness of the earth. Well, that's the same thing he told Jacob. But he said, from heaven, he's going to receive that fatness. But right here, he says, thy dwelling place shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above, and by the sword. See that? By the sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke off his neck. That's what he's talking about when 70 AD. I mean, in 143 BC, when the Most High brought the Romans, brought the Greeks. That's when the yoke was broke, because he stole the land, started posing as Israelites. But anyway, he said that he's gonna live on a fat place of the earth, but by the sword. So we see these 13 families, these Edomites, how they living. They got all the money. They got over 95, 96% of all the money on the earth. But how they get it? He just told you that they've been orchestrating all the wars. They create the wars, they pit the people against each other, then way back and wait till firmate and come to a head, and then they didn't sit there, they funding both sides of the war with armament and all that, and then they turn around and then they got all the contracts to rebuild from the devastation. And they've been doing this over and over again. And we're looking at it right here in the scriptures. It ain't something that just happening. The Most High not already prophesied about it. So we'll keep going.
There are similar secret Illuminati organizations in France, Germany, and other nations operating under different names. And all these organizations, including the CFR, continuously set up numerous subsidiary or front organizations that are infiltrated into every phase of the various nations' affairs. But at all times, the operations of these organizations were and are masterminded and controlled by the internationalist bankers, who in turn were and are controlled by the Rothschilds. The details of how they accomplished the setting up of the CFR in the United States, as also in the other nations, are far too voluminous to be described in this dissertation. But you can find it complete in News Bulletin number 122, entitled UN is Spawn of the Illuminati, and News Bulletin number 123, entitled CFR Completely Unmasked as Illuminati. Both are published by the Cinema Educational Guild, Post Office Box 46205, Hollywood, California. You can get them for 50 cents per copy by writing to that address. Those news bulletins reveal the names of the original founders of the Illuminati and the Americanized names of their descendants in the present CFR. Now I'll go back to the activities of the original Illuminati conspirators. As revealed in News Bulletin number 122, one branch of the Rothschild family had financed Napoleon. Another branch of the Rothschilds, both branches the real masterminds of the Illuminati, financed Britain, Germany, and the other nations in the Napoleonic Wars. Immediately after the Napoleonic Wars, the Illuminati assumed that all the nations were so destitute and so weary of wars that they'd be glad for any solution. So the Rothschild stooges set up what they called the Congress in Vienna. And at that meeting, they tried to create the first League of Nations, their first attempted one world government, on the theory that all the crowned heads of European governments were so deeply in debt to them that they would willingly or unwillingly serve as their stooges. But the Tsar of Russia caught the stench of the plot and completely torpedoed it. The enraged Nathan Rothschild, then the head of that dynasty, vowed that someday he or his descendants would destroy the Tsar and his entire family. And his descendants did accomplish that very threat in 1917. At this point, bear in mind that the Illuminati was not set up to operate on a short-range basis. Normally, a conspirator of any type enters into a conspiracy with the expectation of achieving his objective during his own lifetime. But that was not the case with the Illuminati. True, they hoped to accomplish their objective during their lifetime. But, paraphrasing The Show Must Go On, the Illuminati operates on the very long-range basis. Whether it will take scores of years or even centuries, they have dedicated their descendants to keep the plot boiling until they hope the conspiracy is achieved. Now let's go back to the birth of the Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit-trained professor of canon law, teaching in Ingolstadt University when he defected from Christianity to embrace the Luciferian conspiracy. It was in 1770 that the professional moneylenders, the then recently organized House of Rothschild, retained him to revise and modernize the age-old protocols of Zionism, which from the outset was designed to give the synagogue of Satan, so named by Jesus Christ, ultimate world domination, so they could impose the Luciferian ideology upon what would remain of the human race after the final social cataclysm by use of satanic despotism. Weishaupt completed his task May 1st, 1776. Now you know why May 1 is the great day with all communist nations to this very day.
Right. So like I was saying before, you said you see how they made quadrillions of dollars off of wars, right? So what is it that they fund in both sides? Where did they get that from? I'm gonna read a couple of scriptures, a precept to show you that he was raised by Abraham, and he's the one that's got our records. So it says, I'm in Haggai 2:22, and this is the Most High talking. I will overthrow the thrones of the kingdoms, with an S on the kingdoms. Okay, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen, and I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and horses of their riders shall come down, everyone by the sword of his brother. So the Most High calls them to pit them in against each other. Well, that's what he's doing. He's making money off of it. So me, when I see that, the first thing I think about is everybody thinks that the person in the scriptures that's doing all this, orchestrating all this stuff behind the scenes is Yahweh, but we know it's an angel. It's the Lord of hosts, Michael, right? Well, who you think behind that? Who you think behind them? Satan, all. It's an angel. He behind it. He behind the scenes. Didn't he say he's gonna lift himself up over and above what Michael was doing? So he the one behind the scenes orchestrating this. When you thinking like a Hebrew, you looking dead at it. He's doing it. They're making trillions and trillions of dollars off of what the Most High doing in the Old Testament. Behind the scenes, starting to bringing up garbage on one side and bringing it up on the other side. Got front people, Ashkenazi Jews and Zionists on each side perpetrating the fraud and stirring up trouble, and then next thing you know, it's a war breaking out, and then he got a whole truckload of money. He gone, and he's doing it over and over and over again. His whole concept is he's looking right in the book, in the Tanakh, and doing this. You have to understand it, and so like I said before, you gotta once you understand this right here, you have to constantly check yourself and say, if my ideologies and then what I'm thinking and what I believe is Esau, the concoction is in my head, or is it coming from those sides? Okay.
That was the day, May 1, 1776, that Weishaupt completed his plan and officially organized the Illuminati to put the plan into execution. That plan required the destruction of all existing governments and religions. That objective was to be reached by dividing the masses of people whom he, Weishaupt, termed Goyim, or human cattle, into opposing camps.
Right. So to make sure you understand what's going on, they call Gentiles Goyim, but at the same time, we just saw in Malachi in Obadiah, the first couple of chapters, that he went to the Gentiles and converted them. So now you see why every time something come up, they go and kill off a bunch of those Ashkenazi Jews, because they don't have no respect for them. So they kill off a bunch of them and then turn around and get money out of it. We're gonna see this all through this little hour or so, what we're doing today. They have no respect. They don't have no respect for those Ashkenazi Jews. The Zionists, Esau, behind all this, and he got the Ashkenazis and these other Jews, these Ashkenazi Jews hoodwinked. He got the Israelite hoodwinked. He got everybody hoodwinked. And you have to understand that, and got them thinking like he is.
In ever-increasing numbers on political, social, economic, and other issues, the very conditions we have in our country today. The opposing sides were then to be armed and incidents provided, which would cause them to fight and weaken themselves and gradually destroy national governments and religious institutions. Again, I say, the very conditions in the world today. And at this point, let me stress a prime feature of the Illuminati plans. When and if their blueprint for world control, the protocols of the elders of Zion, is discovered and exposed, they would wipe all the Jews off the face of the earth in order to divert suspicions from themselves. If you think this is far-fetched, bear in mind that they permitted Hitler, a liberal socialist himself, who was financed by Krupp, Kennedy, the Warburgs, and the Rothschilds, to incinerate 600,000 Jews. Now, just why did the conspirators choose the word Illuminati for their satanic organization? Weishaupt himself said that the word is derived from Lucifer.
See that?
And means holders of the light.
See, they're going to call it right there.
Using the lie that his objective was to bring about a one-world government to enable those with mental ability to govern the world and prevent all wars in the future. In short, using the word peace on earth as his bait, exactly as that same bait, peace, was used by the 1945 conspirators to foist the United Nations on us. Weishaupt, financed, I repeat, by the Rothschilds, recruited some 2,000 paid followers. These included the most intelligent men in the fields of arts and letters, education, the sciences, finance, and industry.
Ain't that what Nebuchadnezzar did? Didn't he take the choice of the people, take them back to Babylon? Esau got all this down pat. Yeah.
He then established lodges of the Grand Orient, Masonic lodges, to be their secret headquarters. And I again repeat that in all of this, he was acting under orders from the House of Rothschild. The main features of the Weishaupt plan of operation required his Illuminati to do the following things to help them to accomplish.
He said House of Rothschilds. I mean, I ain't trying to miss a beat. He said House of Rothschilds. Don't David have a house? See that? So this House of Rothschild, they didn't hoodwink the name. That's Herod House. And the same people that they let go, gave safe passage to Spain. Most High deal with houses.
Their purpose. Number one, use monetary and sex bribery to obtain control of men already in high places in the various levels of all governments and other fields of endeavor. Once influential persons had fallen for the lies, deceits, and temptations of the Illuminati, they were to be held in bondage by application of political and other forms of blackmail, threats of financial ruin, public exposure and physical harm, even death, to themselves and loved members of their families. Do you realize how many present top officials in our federal government in Washington are controlled in just that way by the CFR? Do you realize how many homosexuals in our State Department, the Pentagon, all federal agencies, even in the White House, are controlled that way? Number two, Illuminati on the faculties of colleges and universities were to cultivate students possessing exceptional mental ability, belonging to well-bred families with international leanings, and recommend them for special training in internationalism. Such
right, like I said before, you see what he said. They went after their minds, and these are people that they didn't put in the history books and got them portrayed or paraded in front of you, like the rappers and all them, and then you getting their ideologies, not even realizing it. And so, like I said before, now is the time to start checking and finding out where you're getting your ideologies from and why you believe what you believe. Because it's an age-old crook that's been out here for years and years and years, got our records. We Israelites, and we can't even read our own records. He's sitting there with our records. Wicked as hell, imposing ideologies and concepts in people's minds. See?
Training was to be provided by granting scholarships to those selected by the Illuminists. That gives you an idea what a Rhodes Scholarship means. It means indoctrination into accepting the idea that only a one-world government can put an end to recurring wars and strife. That's how the United Nations was sold to the American people. One of the most notable Rhodes Scholars we have in our country is Senator William J. Fulbright, sometimes referred to as Half-Bright. His entire voting record spells Illuminati. All such scholars were to be first persuaded and then convinced that men of special talent and brains have the right to rule those less gifted on the ground that the masses don't know what is best for them physically, mentally, and spiritually.
So he's making your own mind up.
To the Rhodes
got you thinking like he wants you to think.
Today, there are 3 special Illuminati schools located in Gordonstown in Scotland, Salem in Germany, and Anavryta in Greece. These 3 are known ones, but there are others that are kept undercover. Prince Philip, the husband of Britain's Queen Elizabeth, was educated at Gordonstown at the instigation of Lord Louis Mountbatten, his uncle, a Rothschild relative who became Britain's admiral of the fleet after World War II ended. Number 3, all influential people trapped into coming under the control of the Illuminati, plus the students who had been specially educated and trained, were to be used as agents and placed behind the scenes of all governments as experts and specialists, so they would advise the top executives to adopt policies which would, in the long run, serve the secret plans of the Illuminati one world conspiracy and bring about the destruction of the governments and religions they were elected or appointed to serve. Do you know how many such men operate in our government at this very time? Rusk, McNamara, Hubert Humphrey, Fulbright.
Do you research on McNamara? Check that out. They got him blowed up as a hero in America, intellectual, a hero. So like he telling you right here, they're abominable. And then, like I said, an example is you got to ask yourself, why you run to the church house? Before the Most High came and got you, why was you running to the church house every Sunday? Why was you going to BDU on Wednesdays and all this? Why were you doing that? These people. It ain't had nothing to do with the Most High.
Kegel, and go on and on and on. Number 4, perhaps the most vital directive in Weishaupt's plan was to obtain absolute control of the press, at that time the only mass communications media to distribute information to the public, so that all news and information could be slanted, so that the masses could be convinced that a one-world government is the only solution to our many and varied problems. Now, do you know who owns and controls our mass communications media?
Okay.
I'll tell you, practically all the movie lots in Hollywood is owned by the Lehmans, Kuhn Loeb and Company, Goldman Sachs, and other internationalist bankers. All the national radio and TV channels in the nation are owned and controlled by those same internationalist bankers. The same is true of every chain of metropolitan newspapers and magazines, also of the press wire services, such as Associated Press, United Press International, etc. The supposed heads of all those media are merely the fronts for the internationalist bankers, who in turn compose the hierarchy of the CFR, today's Illuminati in America. Now can you understand why the Pentagon's press agent Sylvester so brazenly proclaimed that the government has the right to lie to the people? What he really meant was that our CFR-controlled government had the power to lie to and be believed by the brainwashed American people. And let's again go back to the first days of the Illuminati. Because Britain and France were the two greatest world powers in the late years of the 18th century, Weishaupt ordered the Illuminati to foment the colonial wars, including our Revolutionary War, to weaken the British Empire and organize the French Revolution to destroy the French Empire. He scheduled the French Revolution to start in 1789. However, in 1784, a true act of God placed the Bavarian government in possession of evidence which proved the existence of the Illuminati, and that evidence could have saved France if they, the French government, hadn't refused to believe it. Here is how that act of God happened. It was in 1874 that Weishaupt issued his orders for the French Revolution. A German writer named Zwack put it into book form. It contained the entire Illuminati story and Weishaupt's plans. A copy of this book was sent to the Illuminists in France, headed by Robespierre, whom Weishaupt had delegated to foment the French Revolution. The courier was struck and killed by lightning as he rode through Ralston on his way from Frankfurt to Paris. The police found the subversive documents on his body and turned them over to the proper authorities. After careful study of the plot, the Bavarian government ordered the police to raid Weishaupt's newly organized lodges of the Grand Orient and the homes of his most influential associates. All of additional evidence thus discovered convinced the authorities the documents were genuine copies of the conspiracy by which the Illuminati planned to use wars and revolutions to bring about the establishment of a one-world government, the powers of which they, headed by the Rothschilds, intended to usurp as soon as it was established, exactly in line with the United Nations plot of today. In 1785, the Bavarian government outlawed the Illuminati and closed the lodges of the Grand Orient. In 1786, they published all the details of the conspiracy. The English title of
you notice how the UN is playing a major role in this. Well, let's go back and look at who kicked this year of return off in this year of African descent. It was UN came out and said that they have to America got to do something about what they done to the people in the transatlantic slave trade. So like I said, it's nothing new under the sun. When you see what I've been saying from day one about us going to Africa, same way they orchestrating all this, what the guy telling you right here, they orchestrating the same thing now. So like I said before, you can might as well tie your shoes up, because for when it's over with, you're gonna be on the west coast of Africa, because that's where they lead me. We're gonna get an example of that in a minute.
The original writings of the order and sect of the Illuminati. Copies of the entire conspiracy were sent to all the heads of church and state in Europe. But the power of the Illuminati, which was actually the power of the Rothschilds, was so great that this warning was ignored. Nevertheless, Illuminati became a dirty word, and it went underground. At the same time, Weishaupt ordered Illuminists to infiltrate into the lodges of Blue Masonry and form their own secret societies within all secret societies. Only Masons who proved themselves internationalists and those whose conduct proved they had defected from God were initiated into the Illuminati. Thenceforth, the conspirators donned the cloak of philanthropy and humanitarianism to conceal their revolutionary and subversive activities. In order to infiltrate into Masonic lodges in Britain, Weishaupt invited John Robison over to Europe. Robeson was a high-degree Mason in the Scottish Rite. He was a professor of natural philosophy at Edinburgh University and secretary of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. Robeson did not fall for the lie that the objective of the Illuminati was to create a benevolent dictatorship, but he kept his reactions to himself so well that he was entrusted with a copy of Weishaupt's revised conspiracy for study and safekeeping. Anyway, because the heads of state and church in France were deluded into ignoring the warnings given them, the revolution broke out in 1789 as scheduled by Weishaupt. In order to alert other governments to their danger, in 1798, Robeson published a book entitled Proof of a Conspiracy to Destroy All Governments and Religions. But his warnings were ignored, exactly as our American people have been ignoring all warnings about the United Nations and the Council on Foreign Relations, the CFR. Now here is something that will stun and very likely outrage many who hear this. But there is documentary proof that our own Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton became students of Weishaupt's. Jefferson was one of Weishaupt's strongest defenders when he was outlawed by his government.
Right, so that's the same Thomas Jefferson that was president. So they got you, they can get you another story of him, where we see what's going on with him. Him and Alexander Hamilton. They got us worshiping him, but the guy giving you the breakdown on who they are. They are Jewish. They're Edomites, and the predicament and the reason that we in the predicament we in today, they all tied into it. And like I said before, you got to go back and think about the thoughts and the ideologies that you got and where they came from.
And it was Jefferson who infiltrated the Illuminati into the then newly organized lodges of the Scottish Rite in New England. Here is the proof. In 1789, John Robeson warned all Masonic leaders in America that the Illuminati had infiltrated into their lodges. And on July 19, 1789, David Papin, president of Harvard University, issued the same warning to the graduating class and lectured them on the influence Illuminism was acquiring on American politics and religion. And to top it off, John Quincy Adams, who had organized the New England Masonic lodges, issued his warnings. He wrote 3 letters to Colonel William L. Stone, a top Mason, in which he exposed how Jefferson was using Masonic lodges for subversive Illuministic purposes. Those 3 letters are at this very time in Rittenberg Square Library in Philadelphia. In short, Jefferson, founder of the Democratic Party, was a member of the Illuminati,
founder of the Democratic
which
Party,
at least partly accounts for the condition of the party at this time. And through infiltrations of the Republican Party, we have exactly nothing of loyal Americanism today. That disastrous rebuff at the Congress at Vienna, created by the Tsar of Russia, did not by any means destroy the Illuminati conspiracy. Be a success. They always operated on a long-range view. Pike did most of his work in his home in Little Rock, Arkansas. But a few years later, when the Illuminati's lodges of the Grand Orient became suspect and repudiated because of Mazzini's revolutionary activities in Europe, Pike organized what he called the New and Reformed Palladian Rite. He set up 3 Supreme Councils, one in Charleston, South Carolina, one in Rome, Italy, and the 3rd in Berlin, Germany. He had Mazzini establish 23 subordinate councils in strategic locations throughout the world. These have been the secret headquarters of the world revolutionary movement ever since. Long before Marconi invented radio, The scientists in the Illuminati had found the means for Pike and the heads of his councils to communicate secretly. It was the discovery of that secret that enabled intelligence officers to understand how apparently unrelated incidents, one such as the assassination of an Austrian prince at Sarajevo, took place simultaneously throughout the world, which developed into a war or a revolution. Pike's plan was as simple as it has proved effective. It called for communism, Nazism, political Zionism, and other international movements be organized and used to foment 3 global world wars and at least 2 major revolutions. The First World War was to be fought so as to enable the Illuminati to destroy Tsarism in Russia, as vowed by Rothschild after the Tsar had torpedoed his scheme at the concrete success. They always operated on a long-range view. Pike did most of his work in his home in Little Rock, the Rothschilds and other internationalist bankers.
If you notice, what he's saying is all this stuff is going to happen exactly how they planned it. And that's my point I'm trying to get across to, that what they got planned, you know, until the Most High come back, it's going to happen. He's behind it. He got him, you know, he's behind it, orchestrating it. But what they got planned is going to happen. It ain't got nothing to do with what you believe and what you thinking. It's what they doing over here, and the ideologies and all this that they're imposing on the world. It's happening. It's gonna happen. And you have to understand it. So, like I said, you have to constantly be checking yourself, find out, you know, what you believe. What is it? Where I get it from? Where it comes? What's the origins of it?
And that the slaughter of the supposed 600,000 Jews by Hitler didn't bother the Jewish internationalist bankers at all. That slaughter was necessary in order to create worldwide hatred of the German people and thus bring about the war against them. In short, this Second World War was to be fought to destroy Nazism and to increase the power of political Zionism so that the state of Israel could be established in Palestine.
We just read that in Malachi. We listened to all that to hear that. So they did all that because they didn't shook their finger at the Most High and the Lord of hosts and told him, you kicked us out of here in 70 AD, but we coming back. And they orchestrated all this behind the scenes, and we see they're back over there right now.
During this World War II, international communism was to be built up until it equaled in strength that of united Christendom. When it reached that point, it was to be contained and kept in check until required for the final social cataclysm. As we know now, Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin put that exact policy into effect, and Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson continued that same exact policy.
So they got these heroes. They got us believing they're heroes. He's telling you what's up with them. They're working in tandem. The reason we in the predicament we in is these same people that you worshiping, the same people that got you in the predicament that you're in.
Policy. World War III is to be fomented by using the so-called controversies. The agents of the Illuminati, operating under whatever new name, are now stirring up between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. That war is to be directed in such a manner that all of Islam and political Zionism, Israel, will destroy each other, while at the same time, the remaining nations, once more divided on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion, physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Now, can any thinking person doubt that the intrigue now going on in the Near, Middle, and Far East is designed to accomplish that satanic objective? Pike himself foretold all this in a statement he made to Mazzini on August 15, 1871. Pike stated that after World War III is ended, those who will inspire to undisputed world domination will provoke the greatest social cataclysm the world has ever known. Quoting his own words, taken from the letter he wrote to Mazzini, and which letter is now catalogued in the British Museum in London, England, he said, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time." When Mazzini died in 1872, Pike made another Italian revolutionary leader named Adrian Lemmy his successor. Lemmy, in turn, was succeeded by Lenin and Trotsky, then by Stalin. The revolutionary activities of all those men were financed by British, French, German, and American international bankers, all of them dominated by the House of Rothschild. We are supposed to believe that the international bankers of today, like the money changers of Christ's day, are only the tools or agents of the great conspiracy, but actually they are the masterminds behind all of it. While the general public has been brainwashed by all the mass communications media into believing that communism is a movement of the so-called workers, in the Rothschilds' London bank, Jacob left for America with instructions to buy into a banking house, which was to be the springboard to acquire control of the money system of the United States. Actually, Jacob came here to carry out 4 specific assignments. Number 1, and most important, was to acquire control of America's money system. Number 2, find desirable men who, for a price, would be willing to serve as stooges for the great conspiracy and promote them into high places in our federal government, our Congress, in the U.S. Supreme Court, and all federal agencies.
Yeah, Boule included.
Number 3, create minority group strife throughout the nation.
Here we go.
Particularly between whites and blacks. Number 4, create a movement to destroy religion in the United States, but Christianity to be the chief target. Earlier, I stated that Jacob Schiff came to America with orders by Rothschild to carry out 4 specific directives. The first and most important one was to get control of the United States money system. Let's trace Schiff's step to accomplish that directive. As a first step, he had to buy into a banking house, but it had to be the kind of a house that he could absolutely control and mold for that primary objective of entrapping our U.S. money system. After carefully scouting around, Jacob bought a partnership in a firm that called itself Kuhn and Loeb. Like Schiff, Kuhn and Loeb were immigrants from German Jewish ghettos. They came to the United States in the mid-1840s. Both started their business careers as itinerant pack peddlers. In the early 1850s, they pooled their interests and set up a merchandising store in Lafayette, Indiana, under the firm name of Kuhn and Loeb, servicing the covered wagon settlers on their way west. In the years that followed, they set up similar stores in Cincinnati and St. Louis. Then they added pawnbroking to their merchandising pursuits. From that to money lending was a short and quick step. By the time Schiff arrived on the scene, Kuhn and Loeb was a well-known private banking firm, and this is the firm Jacob bought into. Shortly after he became a partner in Kuhn and Loeb, Schiff married Loeb's daughter, Teresa. Then he bought out Kuhn's interests and moved the firm to New York, and Kuhn and Loeb became Kuhn, Loeb and Company, international bankers, with Jacob Schiff, agent of the Rothschilds, ostensibly the sole owner. And throughout his career, this blend of Judas and Machiavelli, the first hierarch of the Illuminati, great conspiracy in America, posed as a generous philanthropist and a man of great holiness, the cover-up policy set forth by the Illuminati. As I have stated, the first...
Yeah, so I'm fast forward. I'm gonna go to, he's gonna tell you about, it's just very important. He's gonna tell you about the NAACP and how all that worked. Like I said, they got us brainwashed on that.
America. I referred to the job of destroying the unity of the American people by creating minority group and racial strife.
Check this out.
By the pogrom-driven Jewish refugees into America, Schiff was creating one ready-made minority group for that purpose. But the Jewish people as a whole, made fearful by the pogroms, could not be depended upon to create the violence necessary to destroy the unity of the American people.
Right.
But right within America, there was an already made-to-order, although as yet a sleeping minority group, the Negroes, who could be sparked into so-called demonstrations, rioting, looting, murder, and every other type of lawlessness. All that was necessary was to incite and arouse them.
Right.
Together, those two minority groups, properly maneuvered, could be used to create exactly the kind of strife in America the Illuminati would need to accomplish their objective.
So you see what they want. They want to start. They wanted to start. The people were starting to get along. They don't want that. They want to pit them against each other. But now what they got to do? They got to go find some diabolical Negroes to accomplish it. And you got to look at, when they make these names of these people, you got to look at what you think about them and who fasten your mind to admire them.
Thus, at the same time that Schiff and his co-conspirators were laying their plans for the entrapment of our money system, they were also perfecting plans to hit the unsuspecting American people with an explosive and terrifying racial upheaval.
Check it out.
That would tear the people into hate fractions and create chaos throughout the nation, especially on all college and university campuses, all protected by Earl Warren decisions and our so-called leaders in Washington. Of course, perfecting those plans required time and infinitely patient organizing. Now, to remove all doubts, I'll take a few moments to give you documentary proof of this racial strife plot. First of all, they had to create leaderships and organizations to draw in millions of dupes,
Check this out.
both Jewish and Negroes, who would do the demonstrating and commit the rioting, looting, and lawlessness. So in 1909, Schiff, the Layman's, and other conspirators organized and set up the National Association for the Advancement of the Colored People,
NAACP.
known as the NAACP. The presidents, directors, and legal counsels of the NAACP were always white men, Jews appointed by Schiff. And this is the case to this very day. Then, in 1913, the Schiff Group organized the Anti-Defamation League of the B'nai B'rith, commonly known as the ADL, to serve as the Gestapo and hatchet man outfit for the entire Great Conspiracy. Today, this sinister ADL maintains over 2,000 agencies in all parts of the country, and they advise and completely control every action of the NAACP, core of the Urban League, of all the other so-called Negro civil rights organizations throughout the nation, including such leaders as Martin Lucifer King,
Did you hear that?
Stokely Carmichael, Bayard Rustin, and others of that ilk. In addition, the ADL acquired absolute control of the advertising budgets of many department stores, hotel chains, and TV and radio industrialist sponsors, also advertising agencies, in order to control practically all the mass communications media and force every loyal newspaper to slant and falsify the news, and to further incite and at the same time create sympathy for the lawlessness and violence of the Negro mobs. Here is documentary proof of the beginning of their deliberate plot to foment the Negroes into all their lawlessness. Around 1910, one Israel Zangwill wrote a play entitled The Melting Pot. It was sheer propaganda to incite the Negroes and Jews, because the play purportedly visualized how the American people were discriminating against and persecuting Jews and Negroes. At that time, nobody seemed to realize that it was a propaganda play. It was that cleverly written. The propaganda was well wrapped up in the truly great entertainment in the play, and it was a big Broadway hit. Now, in those years, the legendary Diamond Jim Brady used to throw a banquet at the famous Delmonico restaurant in New York after the opening performance of a popular play. He threw such a party for the cast of The Melting Pot, its author, producer, and chosen Broadway celebrities. By then, I'd already made a personal mark on the Broadway theater and was invited to that party. There I met George Bernard Shaw and a Jewish...
Right, so I had to stop there because if anybody watched JFK, the movie JFK, you're going to notice that it was a Shaw that was down in New Orleans. When the missing link to everything that happened with JFK. It's a Shaw. His name was Shaw. You think that's a coincidence? Like this guy right here, they don't you know, you follow the lineage. You had a Kennedy funding Hitler. What Kennedy was that? That's the grandfather of JFK. So these people, like I say, they come right down the line. They ain't missing no beat. It's a particular group of people. And when you trace this, you can trace them all the way back to they killed Alexander and they killed Julius Caesar. They wicked as hell, and they controlling them. They control not only they doing that, they controlling what you think. If you don't have enough zeal and the audacity to go do your research, you're gonna have 95% of the stuff you thinking and doing. They didn't concoct it. They didn't impose it on you.
Writer named Israel Cohen. Zangwill, Shaw, and Cohen were the triumvirate who created the Fabian Society in England and had worked closely with a Frankfurt Jew named Mordecai, who had changed his name to Karl.
Now, watch this. So we just did a class on Mordecai. Listen to who Mordecai is. Karl Marx.
But remember, at that time,
Karl Marx's original name is Mordecai.
Communism were just emerging, and nobody paid much attention to either.
Ain't that a joke?
And nobody suspected the propaganda and the writings of those three really brilliant writers. At that banquet, Israel Cohen told me he was then engaged in writing a book which was to be a follow-up on Zangwill's The Melting Pot. The title of his book was to be a racial program for the 20th century.
Right. So the book he wrote, they followed it to the letter. So why am I talking about this? Because didn't King James, he an Edomite. They want you to think that King James is this black dude, but King James was a mulatto Edomite. And he got Sir Francis Bacon. Sir Francis Bacon, which is Shakespeare, the one that wrote, that translated and it resides and concocted the New Testament. I mean, you know, transliterated it. A literary genius. So who wrote the Gospels? Marcion, an Edomite literary genius. And now he just told you Mordecai, which is Karl Marx, and the other guy Cohn wrote this book. And they following this book right here all the way down to the day. And people can't find them there. They want to say that, you know, this ain't no way it could have been concocted. You know, these people, they didn't went and summon demons and evil spirits and all that to help them. That's all acting is. Acting ain't nothing but summoning some spirit from somewhere to help you. And they've been doing this for thousands of years. And people can't, they can't, it's not registering in their mind when you start thinking about the Old and the New Testament. And then all these other, like I said, all these other books they wrote, they use typology, and then on top of that, they got a track record of you know, doing literary work to this magnitude.
At that time, I was completely absorbed by my work as a playwright, and significant as that title was, its real objective never dawned on me, nor was I interested in reading the book. But it suddenly hit me with the force of a hydrogen bomb when I received a newspaper clipping of an item published by the Washington, D.C. Evening Star in May 1957. That item was a verbatim reprint of the following excerpt in Israel Cohen's book, A Racial Program for the 20th Century. And it reads, as I quote, "We must realize that our party's most powerful weapon is racial tension. By propounding into the consciousness of the dark races that for centuries they have been oppressed by the whites, we can mold them to the program of the Communist Party.
Mold them.
In America, we will aim for subtle victory. While inflaming the Negro minority against the whites, we will instill in the whites a guilt complex for their exploitation of the Negroes. We will aid the Negroes to rise to prominence in every walk of life, in the professions and in the world of sports and entertainment.
Watch this.
With this prestige, the Negro will be able to intermarry with the whites and begin a process which will deliver America to our cause."
You're going to get the white girl.
That
Oh, white boy.
was entered into
They concocted that for you to do that. Ain't nothing you doing.
By Representative Thomas G. Abernathy. Thus, the authenticity of that passage in Cohen's book was fully established. But the one question that remained in my mind was whether it represented the official policy or plot of the Communist Party, or just a personal expression of Cohen himself. Hence, I sought more proof, and I found it. In an official pamphlet published in 1935 by the New York Communist Party's official Workers' Library Publishers. That pamphlet was entitled, "The Negroes in a Soviet America." It urged the Negroes to rise up, form a Soviet state in the South, and apply for admission to the Soviet Union. It contained a firm pledge that the revolt would be supported by all American Reds and all so-called liberals. On page 38, it promised that a Soviet government would confer greater benefits to Negroes than to whites. And again, this official communist pamphlet pledged that, I quote, "Any act of discrimination or prejudice against a Negro will become a crime under the revolutionary law," unquote. That statement proved that the excerpt in Israel Cohen's book, published in 1913, was an official edict of the Communist Party and directly in line with the Illuminati blueprint for world revolution issued by Weishaupt and later by Albert Pike.
Right. So based on what he just said, example of that is they brought Obama in there out the blue. You know, nobody wasn't. You know, it was the way the world was going. Wasn't no time for no black president, but they planned. They got a blueprint, so they brought him in, and what come behind him? They bring a black man in for 8 years, then they come behind it with the very opposite, a redneck. What that's doing? That's why America is where it's at now. at a standstill. All this red racism and all this that came out on the scene, they behind the scenes. They pros at this. And so, like I said before, what's the agenda? What's the purpose of it? He said that they're going to use racial strife to control America, to control the people. Well, what they want us at? They want us in Africa. So look what they're doing. They causing all kind of tension all over the place because they to make it this place undesirable for us to leave. And that's exactly what's happening, and that's exactly what we're finna do. With the 2019, this year of people of African descent, and then the decade of African descent, which ain't even over yet. They're using they pulling out all their stops. They still got 4 years. And like I said, by the time they finish, you see how they operate, we're gonna be right over there on the west coast of Africa. And ain't even know why the hell we got over there.
Now there's only one question, and that is to prove that the communist regime is directly controlled by the American Jacob Schiff and London Rothschild masterminds of the Great Conspiracy. A little later, I will provide that proof that will remove even a remote doubt that the Communist Party as we know it was created by those masterminds, capitalists if you will note, that Schiff, the Warburgs, and the Rothschilds planned and financed the entire Russian Revolution, also the murder of the Tsar and his family, and that Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin took their orders directly from Schiff and the other capitalists whom they supposedly are fighting. Now can you see why the vile Earl Warren and his equally vile co-Supreme Court justices issued that infamous and treasonous desegregation decision in 1954? It was to aid and abet the plot of the Illuminati conspirators to create tension and strife between Negroes and whites. Can you see why the same Earl Warren issued his decision prohibiting Christian prayers?
They wanted
confiscatory powers.
They wanted the blacks and the whites to get together already. They knew it was going to be the drama for us. So, like they said before, when you look at this and you understand this, then everything else fall in place. They keep telling you over and over again that Martin Luther King was a communist. So look what the man just told you. And then he just told you they was all faggots. And we looking at right today, all the celebrities, they stone cold faggots. This is right here. These people right here. Just like the Most High, just like Isaac said, when he blessed Jacob and Esau, he blessed them. He told them, you know, you're gonna get your blessing from heaven, but he's gonna get his blessing by the sword. When we're looking dead at it, you just gotta figure out, you gotta, look a little deeper, dig a little deeper, and you find out. Let's just say these are all Edomites. They didn't change their names. Yeah. We got about 5 more minutes, and then it's going to be half of...
Well, that too was not an insurmountable problem for our Machiavellian plotters. The same elected leaders in both houses of Congress and the same Mr. Woodrow Wilson, who signed the infamous Federal Reserve Act into law, amended the Constitution to make the federal income tax, known as the 16th Amendment, a law of the land. Both are illegal under our Constitution.
See that?
In short, the same traitors signed both betrayals, the Federal Reserve Act and the 16th Amendment, into law. However, it seems that nobody ever realized that the 16th Amendment was set up to rob, and I do mean rob, the people of their earnings via the income tax provision. The plotters didn't fully use that provision until World War II, when that great humanitarian, Franklin Roosevelt, applied a 20% withholding tax on all small wage earners and up to 90% on higher incomes. Oh, of course, he faithfully promised that it would be only for the duration of the war. But what was a promise to such a charlatan who in 1940 when he was running for his third term, kept proclaiming, "I say again and again and again that I will never send American boys to fight on foreign soil." Remember? He was proclaiming that even as he was already preparing to plunge us into World War II by enticing the Japanese into that sneak attack on Pearl Harbor to furnish him with his excuse. And before I forget, let me remind you that another charlatan named Woodrow Wilson used exactly that same campaign slogan in 1916. His slogan was, "Re-elect the man who will keep your sons out of the war." Exactly the same formula, exactly the same promises.
Right.
But wait, as Al Jolson used to say, you ain't heard nothing yet. That 16th Amendment income tax trap was intended to confiscate, rob, the earnings only of the common herd, you and me. It was not intended to even touch the huge incomes of the Illuminati gang, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Lehmans, and all the other conspirators. So together with that 16th Amendment, they created what they called the tax-free foundations. That would enable the conspirators to transform their huge wealth into such so-called foundations and avoid payment of virtually all income taxes. The excuse for it was that the earnings of those tax-free foundations would be devoted to humanitarian philanthropy. So we now have the several Rockefeller foundations, the Carnegie Endowment Fund, the Ford Foundation, the Mellon Foundation, and hundreds of similar tax-free foundations. And what kind of philanthropy do these foundations support? Well, they finance all the civil rights groups that are creating all the chaos and rioting all over the country. They finance the Martin Lucifer Kings. The Ford Foundation finances the Center for the Study of Democratic Institutions in Santa Barbara, commonly referred to as Moscow West, and which is headed by Wonderboy Hutchins, Walter Reuther, Irwin Canham, and others of that ilk. In short, the tax-free foundation financed those who are doing the job for the Illuminati Great Conspiracy. And what are the hundreds of billions of dollars they confiscate every year from the earnings of the common herd, you and me, used for? Well, for one thing, there's the foreign aid gimmick, which gave billions to communist Tito, plus gifts of hundreds of jet planes, many of which were turned over to Castro, plus the costs of training communist pilots so that they can the better shoot down our planes, billions to Red Poland, billions to India, billions to Sukarno, billions to other enemies of the United States. That's what that treasonously railroaded 16th Amendment has done to our nation, to the American people, to you and to me, to your children and their children. Our CFR Illuminati-controlled federal government can grant tax-free status to all foundations and pro-red one-word outfits, such as the Fund for the Republic. But if you, or a patriotic pro-organization, is too outspokenly pro-American, they can terrify and intimidate you by finding a misplaced comma in your income tax report and by threatening you with penalties, fines, and even prison. Future historians will wonder how the American people could have been so naive and stupid as to have permitted such audaciously brazen acts of treason as the Federal Reserve Act and the 16th Amendment. Well, they were not naive and they were not stupid. The answer is they trusted the men they elected to safeguard our country and our people. And they just didn't have even an inkling about either betrayal until after each one had been accomplished. It was the Illuminati-controlled mass communications media that kept and is keeping our people naive and stupid and unaware of the treason being committed. Now the great question is, when will the people wake up and do to our traitors of today what George Washington and our founding fathers would have done to Benedict Arnold? Actually, Benedict Arnold was a petty traitor
Okay. So that's the halfway mark. Comments. Got any comments?
Yeah.
What you got?
It's pretty amazing how, you know, all that he just said shows the ability for them to be diligent and, you know, be meticulous and come together and agree
Right.
and raise their children and, you know,
Right.
together as a
Right.
people and agree to bring something to pass.
Exactly. And they're doing it line upon line, precept on precept. It's just that you gotta be looking in the right places and see it's right in your face, it's right in our face. Yeah. And it's like I said before, these people want us in Africa. And we saw over there earlier where he was talking about I might have skipped over, but he was talking about in order for them to pass that voting right, in order for them to pass the bill for the Federal Reserve, they had to change the dynamic of the voting block. So they went over to Europe where these Ashkenazi Jews at and start causing havoc like they're doing now because they want us in Africa. They causing all kind of havoc where all them Edomite Jews flooded in America. And then they got all this money that they got from us, from the taxpayers, and they placing them in certain districts where they can, for the numbers to go up. And they told them, make them be Democrats, and then all of a sudden, they getting these people in offices and being senators and congressmen because they brought all these, and they went past the system and made them naturalized citizens, you know, behind the scenes. All these thousands and thousands of people, they made them naturalized citizens, but placed them in certain areas as far as the voting rights. And then once they got the people in the office that they wanted, they passed the Federal Reserve Bill. So what's any different than that than what they get ready to do with us? They finna relocate us. They finna relocate. But the thing about it is, they got a track record. They know just how to do it. It ain't like this a trial run. They did it over and over again. They did it with the Arabs in the Middle East with the Gulf War. They caused all those evacuees and relocated people and brought all them millions of Arabs over in the UK. That's the reason the UK is did the what they call that, not Black Sea, but I can't think of the name of it. What they call it? Brexit, yeah. So that's what caused that. That's what they wanted, but they brought all those refugees over there, those Arab refugees, and you know, and altered the people mindset, made the Britain people uncomfortable, and then they didn't want to be in you know, part of the European Union no more. But that was their objective. They constantly causing strife. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Anybody else got anything?
Shalom, shalom, Leonard.
Okay.
I mean, they are leaving nothing to chance.
Right.
They got the blueprint laid out, and like I heard the dude say, he said they willing to wait centuries for what they want to come to pass.
Right.
Did you hear him? Did you hear him say, Martha, Lucifer,
right,
King?
Right.
So we haven't really had any real leaders. We've been led to the slaughter on every hand.
Right. They giving it to us, and so like I said before, you didn't heard anybody that did any research and heard that Martin Luther King was a communist. Now you see why they're saying it. They got records. They got stuff where he was, you know, paperwork he signed, and so like I said, he can't do all what he done and don't know, it wasn't informed by them what they was doing. He went along with the program, just like and then everybody know Baynard, whatever his name, you know, he was a stone cold faggot.
Yeah, and he was the front man for the whole operation.
Right, he the one brought Martin Luther King.
Exactly.
So now this is the other side of it. And like I said before, you got to go back and look at it. And like I said, you got to think about everything that you done concoct in your mind that you all bent out of shape about. You got to find out where they come from.
Right.
These people imposing on me, or is it from the Most High, or what?
Right.
Come on.
And like you say, the whole I forget how to say it, LGBTQ and all that.
Right.
That's on purpose.
Right.
You know, that's on purpose. And like it was just, I mean, it was wonderful information. I mean, like it's information like if you say you don't know after hearing this, come on.
Right. Exactly. Right.
It's just it's amazing. It truly is a matrix.
Right.
Like they make us think that we have a choice, but they have set things in place to guide our mind where they want it to go.
Right, exactly.
And that's it. Not that makes it more important when you say thinking like a Hebrew.
Right. You got to, like I said, look at how, like I said, when you start talking about wisdom, you see this way. What they got you thinking, it came from them. They're talking about Athena came out of he ate Athena mama, turned her into a raindrop and ate her, and then she came out of his brain and she was wisdom. Come on, man. See,
right.
So you gotta, and then you gotta go back and track that. That's why I said, you know, on Wednesday I'm gonna do the class. I'm gonna do the episode on Buddhism, because who knows that?
Right.
That's lost time. 2 lost centuries just about that you don't know nothing about, but those 2 lost centuries is lost for a reason, because that's where Christianity was formulated from. Right.
And if I understood correctly, Leonard, the end goal is not Christianity or Islam, it's Luciferian.
Right. So but there's a trick to it. Like I was saying before, when Dr. Frankenstein created the Frankenstein monster, didn't he have to kill it?
Right.
So they can destroy Christianity and Islam and all that because they're the ones created it.
Right. Yeah. I also felt like the information that we received tonight, man, it blows Louis Farrakhan. He put Louis Farrakhan right in there with
Yeah, you got to be right.
Exactly. Stirring up strife.
Right. Once you see the format, ain't nobody up there that they ain't brought up there.
Right.
So you have to understand, and then they got them in there for a reason, to lead the people in a certain direction and with a certain ideology.
Right.
You know, and like I said before, those people that's idol worship. When you thinking like them, they worship idols. So if you ain't doing no critical thinking, and then backtracking and checking your own self, you're gonna be right there with them. You're gonna be idol worship. Look at the man said he wanted them to be he wanted them to start. He gonna start getting them opportunities like in sports and all that, and what they expecting for him to do is marry white women.
Yeah.
They're expecting them to marry black women to start marrying white men. Look what that nigga's doing.
Right.
Look what the Negroes doing.
Storybook blueprint.
So ain't nothing you doing. You've been coerced and manipulated. Yeah.
Okay, now that last comment is so these wicked people, Illuminati, did I understand you to say it goes back to Herod?
It go back to Julius Caesar, Brutus, and all them that killed Julius Caesar in the Senate.
Okay.
It was Edomites. And then when you understand the story, when you understand who Jesus is, that's Caesarian. So when he came back, they the bankers. We just had a $5 billion heist back in 2008, 2009.
Right, exactly.
So them the same people, same lineage, same people. So they was the money changers. Brutus and them killed them because Julius Caesar was making the rich or the poor people. He was bringing them up.
Yes.
And they was losing money, and they didn't want that, so they killed him. So when Caesarion came back, the only time Jesus got mad was when?
When the money changes came
Money
into
changes. Because them same people killed his daddy.
Mm.
Come on.
Mm-hmm. Right. Awesome video. I'm gonna
Okay.
listen to that again. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else got any comments? Okay. All right. Right. So the purpose of the video was to show you that how these people are operating, but you have to bump it against the scriptures based on what the Most High said. So what you see when you do that, you see that the Most High power, because everything they're doing, he said he was gonna do it. So he's behind the scenes manipulating them. Like I said, if you're not gonna take if you got a monkey and you don't want him to eat, then you ain't gonna take him to no banana tree. So it's the same thing with that. They taking the Israelites back over there where their homeland is. See, if you had in the sense, you take them to the Antarctic somewhere. But to show you how ignorant they is, they devising a plan to take us right next door to our homeland. How crazy is that? Yeah. King James is the people that went to Spain in Europe. What they was Edomites, they was mulattoes, half breeds. Because the Europeans, the Israelites, when the Greeks came, Esau intermingled with them, and Esau was of color. So then you got mulattoes. So that's why people saying King James was a black man, but he's an Edomite. And then they started marrying into those heritage lineage, started marrying into those European families, aristocratic families, and they eventually whited out. Now they look white. But when they first went over there, Queen whatever her name, Isabella, the one that sent the Nina Pina and the Santa Marina out, she was mulatto. King James was mulatto because they came from Jerusalem, 70 AD, when Vespasian and Titus gave them safe passage to Spain. Got any more questions? Yeah. So like I said, this video right here was 2 hours and right at 3. It was right at 3 hours. So what I did was half of it tonight, right? And so I was wondering if if y'all wanted to do the other half tomorrow night, or do you want to do it Wednesday? Because I was going to do the Buddhism on Wednesday night for episode. It's whatever y'all want. Any comments?
Yeah, I'd rather wait since we already have all the other days.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So what I do is
I didn't hear what Kevin said.
oh, he said he want to wait.
Okay, to Wednesday.
Right. So I just do the episode on Thursday.
Okay.
Right. So there's no more comments. Okay. Yes. Okay. I mean, so if the thing about that is if what's up with AJ? Do AJ want to do it tomorrow? Hello?
Yeah, he's not on here.
Huh?
So he's not on here.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we just do it. We'll do Wednesday. Okay. But so what happened was I'm hoping everybody got the video. So what to do now is watch the second half. Make sure you watch the second half of it because I just did the first half. And like I said, the reason I did it was because you know, or now that most people have the foundation, I have to go in and show them how Esau, and show them just who he is, and what we as Israelites been up against up until this point. I couldn't really dove in all that, just coming out the gate. So I kind of built the foundation, you know what I'm saying? And now we going into the rabbit hole, And so we'll just do that, do the other half on Wednesday, and then I'll do that episode 9 about Buddhism and all that Stoicism and all that stuff on Thursday. Okay. 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 So you said no more questions.
No, no more questions.
Okay, I see somebody say I noticed it keep calling Martin Luther King, and then somebody says okay, yeah. So all right, we'll pick this up on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Shalom, and another shalom.